Welcome, everyone. I see some names there. One more minute here, and then I will be starting our event. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. See me, hear me, all right? All right, okay, yalla. All right, good day, Dambash, everyone. Chawanin. I'm Shahrena Shahrani, Outreach Coordinator at Zahra Institute. I hope you have had the opportunity to tune in to the amazing lectures presented by our guest speakers for our fall speaker series. And today's presentation will be the Institute's last presentation for the season and, well, for the year 2024. Our speaker series will resume again after the start of the spring term classes at Zahra Institute. And to learn more about our upcoming spring course offerings, such as Kurmanji and Shahrani beginning to intermediate language courses, Kurdish intellectual profiles on Ahmadi Khani, Kurds in the Middle East, history and politics, Muslim societies, among others. You can find the course flyers in the chat box. And also to learn more about our MA certificate programs, please visit our website at www.zahrainstitute.org. You can also follow Zahra Institute on social media such as Facebook, X, Instagram, and LinkedIn for updates. I will be introducing you to our guest speaker and help moderate the Q&A section after the presentation. I invite you to type any questions you might have on the presentation in the chat box. We'll get to as many of them as we can after the presentation. And if you need to leave early or want to rewatch the lecture, a video recording of this lecture will be made available on Zahra Institute's YouTube and Facebook page within a few days. Again, marhaba, welcome everyone. Today we will learn more about the Safavid policy in the Kurdish Borderlands, a comparative study with Ottoman Kurdish policies with Dr. Akihiko Yamaguchi, and some information about our honored guest speaker. Dr. Yamaguchi is a professor of Middle Eastern history at Sophia University in Tokyo. And prior to joining Sophia University, he taught at the University of Sacred Heart in Tokyo. And Dr. Yamaguchi earned his Ph.D. in history from the École Pratique des Hautes Études in Paris. And his research primarily focuses on the history of Iran from the 16th to the early 20th centuries, with special emphasis on minorities and the peripheral regions. He is particularly interested in the interactions between the Kurdish regions and the central government during this period. Dr. Yamaguchi's key publications include Urban-Rural Relations in early 18th century Iran, a case study of settlement patterns in the province of Hamadan, in Persian documents, Social History of Iran and Turan in the 15th to 19th centuries, the Safavid legacy as viewed from the periphery, the formation of Iran, and the political integration of a Kurdish emirate and mapping Safavid Iran, Iranian Kurds, Akradi Iran, and the Safavid forced migration policies in Journal of Asian and African Studies, Volume 93, the Kurdish frontier under the Safavids in the Safavid world, and mediating between the royal court and the periphery, the Zangana family's brokerage in Safavid Iran, 1501 to 1722. And that's in Iran, a journal of the British Institute of Persian Studies. And with that being said, I am going to turn it over to our presenter, Dr. Akihiko Yamaguchi. And Professor, the floor is yours. Professor, you are still muted.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I'm happy to be here with you today. First, I would like to thank Professor Mujahid Biligi and Professor Shahreena Shahrani and other staff at the Zahra Institute for giving me the opportunity to give a presentation here today. I would also like to thank all of them, who has joined this event online. Thank you very much. So let me share my PowerPoint. Do you see my PowerPoint file?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. Okay, let me get started. First, I would like to briefly introduce my research. I'm a historian, and my research focuses on the history of Kurdistan during the early modern period. Specifically, I am interested in how the region, how Kurdistan came under Ottoman and Safavid rule between the 16th and early 18th centuries. As you know, there is a relatively large body of work on the history of Ottoman Kurdistan. However, research on the history of Iranian Kurdistan remains rather limited. So, in today's lecture, I would like to focus on the history of this part of Kurdistan, Iranian part of Kurdistan during the early modern period, particularly the Safavid dynasty's policies towards the Kurdish tribes. First, I would like to provide a general overview of the political situation in Kurdistan during pre-modern times. The history of Kurdistan before the mid-19th century is often described as follows. Before the mid-19th century, small Kurdish dynasties and tribal confederations existed across various parts of Kurdistan, as shown on this map. These tribal confederations or emirates were typically led by a chieftain or feudal lord, often referred to as amir or mir. When a major dynasty or empire extended its rule over Kurdistan, these Kurdish chieftains sometimes resisted. More often, however, they sought to preserve their own territories by pledging allegiance, usually nominal allegiance, to these larger powers. From the 16th century onwards, the Ottoman and Safavid empires drastically reorganized the Middle East, bringing most of the region under their control. As a result, Kurdistan found itself positioned on the frontier between these two empires. For both empires, the challenge was how to integrate the Kurdish amirs or Kurdish tribes on this frontier into their administrative systems. This was no easy task. First, Kurdistan's mountainous geography made direct control extremely difficult, especially given the military and communication technologies. Given the limited military and communication technologies of the time. Additionally, applying excessive pressure on the Kurdish amirs risked pushing them to defect to the enemy empire. So both the Ottomans and Safavids adopt a policy of gradual integration, preserving Kurdistan's political structures almost intact. They allowed Kurdish emirs to retain their hereditary rights over their territories and tribes. In this regard, there was a little difference between the approaches of the Ottoman and Safavid empires. This is the first point I would like to emphasize. Now, before discussing the Safavid case, let us examine briefly, very briefly, how the Ottoman Empire governed the Kurdish emirs. To understand this, we first need to consider the general system of local administration in the Ottoman Empire. The empire's governing structure was hierarchical. The imperial land was divided into provinces called velayet or eyalet. And each province was divided into districts or sanjak. The governor of a province was called Beylil Bey, and while the governor of a district was referred to as Sanjak Bey. Typically, the Ottoman government appointed these governors among high-ranking military officers In other words, the Beylil base and Sanjak base were both dispatched from the center. However, at the, in Kurdish regions, the Ottoman Empire implemented a distinct form of governance. Instead of appointing Sanjak beys from the central administration, the Ottomans appointed local Kurdish amirs to these positions, allowing them to continue governing their lands. At the same time, the Ottomans dispatched Beylil beys from the center to exert control over these Kurdish Sanjak beys. As shown in this diagram created by Professor Martin van Barnesen, the Beylil beys, Beylil bey, acted as intermediaries, arranging and managing the relationships between the central government and Kurdish principalities or Kurdish amirs. This system formed the foundation of the Ottoman Empire's rule over the Kurdish regions. Now, how did the Safavid Empire govern the Kurdish amirs? To answer this, let us first briefly review the establishment of the Safavid state and its system of rule. As you know, the Safavid dynasty originated from the Safavid order, the Sufi order. From around the mid-15th century, this order began advocating a radical form of Shiism and sought to establish a dynasty by gaining the support of certain Turkish nomadic tribes in eastern Anatolia. These tribes, which supported the Safavid order, are commonly referred to as Kizilbash or Kızılbaş. After the Safavid dynasty was established in 1501, the emirs of these Turkish nomadic tribes or Kizilbash emirs were granted key positions in both the central government and local administration, particularly in the military and political spheres. During the first half of the Safavid period, roughly through the 16th century, the Kizilbash emirs remained dominant in shaping the dynasty's politics and military affairs. And Iranian bureaucratic families called often Tajik in sources, were in charge of administration and finance. This was the basic system of governance for the Safavid dynasty during the 16th century. Now, under these conditions, how did the Safavid state govern the Kurdish emirs on the frontier? Traditionally, Safavid policy towards the Kurdish tribes has been perceived as rather different from that of the Ottoman Empire, with the Shiite Safavid state seen as suppressing the Sunni Kurdish emirs and attempting to strip them of their territories and castles. While it is true that in the early years of the Safavid Safavid dynasty, they tried to remove Kurdish emirs from East Anatolia. This was more of an exceptional case in Safavid history. After the famous Battle of Chaldiran in 1514, where the Safavids suffered a major defeat, particularly during the reign of Shah Tahmasp, the second Shah, the Safavids began to adopt a more realistic and moderate approach toward the Kurdish emirs and tribes. Much like the Ottoman Empire, the Safavids generally acknowledged the hereditary rights of Kurdish emirs to govern their territories. By doing so, they aimed to loosely integrate the Kurdish tribes into the administrative framework. Of course, the Safavids occasionally suppressed rebellious Kurdish tribes with great brutality. It is true. Nevertheless, as a general rule, the Safavid state, like the Ottomans, recognized the vested interests of the Kurdish amirs as long as they remained loyal to the state. So what was the difference between the Ottoman and Safavid policies toward the Kurdish tribes? The Ottomans tried to control the Kurdish amirs through provincial governors, beylerbeys, sent from Istanbul, as I mentioned earlier, whereas the Safavids sought to integrate the Kurdish emirs into the ruling system by fostering a personal, direct relationship between the monarch, between the Shah and the Kurdish chieftains. Let me explain this in more detail, focusing on the Kurdish policy of the second Shah, Shah Tahmasp. Basically, Shah Tahmasp allowed Kurdish emirs who submitted to him to retain their inherited lands by appointing them as governors of their own territories. With few exceptions, he allowed all Kurdish emirs who came to his court to maintain their hereditary privileges. Moreover, the Shah worked to establish a personal relationship with these emirs. How did he do this? There were two key measures. First, he required the Kurdish emirs who submitted to Safavid rule to send some of their sons to the royal court. These boys were raised at the court with great care. This is described in the famous Persian chronicle, Sharafname, written by Sharaf Khan Bidlisi, Amir of Bitlis. As you know, Sharaf Khan himself was born in Iran after his father Shamsuddin went into exile with the Safavid dynasty following his loss of governorship over Bitlis, as ordered by Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. And Sharaf Khan says that he served in the court of Shah Tahmasp from a young age and was favored by the Shah. He says as follows. As the late monarch Shah Tahmasp was accustomed to receiving sons of amirs and notables of his kingdom at an early age into his court, and putting them in the company of intimate friends of royal princes. He made it a sacred duty to have them educated with the utmost care and protection. He stimulated their zeal to study the Quran and to read precepts of the sacred law and to be pious and pure, and inspire them to associate with those who are God-fearing and beneficent. When they reached the age of maturity and discernment, they were taught all kinds of gymnastic exercises, as well as the rules of urbanity and civility. He also taught them to pay attention to painting. In 958, when the humble author of these lines, that is Sharaf Khan, had reached the age of 9, following the custom, he was admitted in the royal court and private gatherings of the Shah. He spent 3 years in the family of that virtuous monarch and was ranked among the servants of the generous king until the year 961, when his respected father asked for permission for living in seclusion. The great tribe of Rojaki them requested unanimously that the Shah graciously give his principality to the author of these pages, Sharif Khan. The Shah was pleased upon request to grant the position of Amir to him at the age of 12 years. This passage clearly conveys the respect and admiration that Sharif Khan felt for Shah Tahmasp. In other words, by being raised from a young age in the Safavid court, close to the Shah, he developed a deep sense of loyalty to the Shah. Of course, this policy was primarily a form of hostage policy and was intended to prevent amirs from rebelling against the dynasty or the Shah. Even so, the boys brought to the court were treated with great care, and they were given the best education of the time. So the effect of this policy extended beyond merely preventing rebellion. It goes without saying that raising the emirs' sons at court from a young age naturally fostered loyalty to the sovereign among them. Another measure Shah Tahmasp took to establish a personal connection with the emirs was recruiting young men from various tribes to serve in the royal court known as Kurdish. While the Kurdish were typically recruited from the Kizuba tribes, Shah Tahmasp also targeted Kurdish tribes. The Kurdish served as the imperial guard during times of war, and even in times of peace, they remained close to the Shah and were responsible for guarding the royal court. As with the education in the royal court mentioned earlier, it is clear that serving as a Kurdish royal guard played a key role in cultivating loyalty to the Shah among those recruited. What is more interesting is that many of those spent time at court as hostages or courtiers were later appointed as emirs of their own tribes. In other words, individuals who had raised in the Safavid court for several years or who had served as courtiers for a time were often rewarded with the leadership of their tribes. For instance, Haji Beg Domboli was a member of the ruling family of the Domboli tribe, a Kurdish tribe at the time. First, he served Shah Tahmasp as Kurdish, then being appointed as Emir of his own tribe. As we discussed earlier, Shah Khan Bidlisi was also appointed Emir of the Rojaki tribe in a similar way. In short, those who spent their youth at the royal court were expected to continue serving the Shah faithfully, even after they left to take up their positions as emirs. Another notable policy of Shah Tahmasp was the relocation of certain Kurdish tribes to Khorasan and other parts of Iran, where they were entrusted with the defense of the borders. Specifically, these tribes included the Chemshigezek, Pazuki, Chegyani, Siyah Masur, and Zangiani. These Kurdish tribes were tasked with protecting the northeastern borders of the Safavid Empire primarily. from the Uzbeks who posed a great threat in the region. Why were these particular tribes relocated to Khorasan? One of the most important reasons is that many of these tribes were relatively small and weak and lacked a specific inherited territory when they submitted to the Safavid dynasty. They did not have a strong attachment to a particular territory. That's why they could be moved easily. By contrast, the powerful Kurdish tribes or tribal confederations that ruled over vast territories, such as the Mukri and Al-Dalan, were never forced to migrate elsewhere. This was because they were too powerful for the Safavids to move, and they clung to their territory and castles. So they were allowed to continue to rule their own lands and castles. These were the main policies of the Safavids or Shah Tahmasp toward the Kurds in the 16th century, particularly during the reign of Shah Tahmasp. In general, under Safavid rule, the Kurdish amirs were permitted to retain authority over their lands. And this system likely facilitated the integration of Kurdish tribes and tribal confederations into the Safavid regime. However, it is also important to note that the political core of the Safavid dynasty was dominated by the Kizilbash nomads, Turkish nomads, leaving little room for Kurdish amirs to gain significant influence within the central government. As a result, no Kurdish amirs held prominent positions in the Safavid administration during this period in the 16th century. In this sense, they were integrated but largely excluded from the center of power at that time. In 1576, Shah Tahmasp died, and political chaos continued for more than 10 years after that. And his grandson, Shah Abbas I, ascended the throne in 1588 and began a series of radical reforms that transformed the Safavid dynasty into a more centralized system. In his efforts to centralize the state, Shah Abbas I worked to reduce the power of the Kizilbash amirs and appointed loyal gholams, a kind of slave soldiers, mainly Georgians and Armenians from the Caucasus, to important posts in both the central and local government. His goal was to tighten control over the empire by promoting these loyal gholams from Georgia and Armenia. As part of these reforms, the Safavid dynasty's relationship with the Kurdish tribes or Kurdish amirs also changed. One significant shift was Shah Abbas began appointing talented, capable Kurdish chieftains to important positions in the central government and local administration. This marked a new development that had not occurred during Shah Tahmasp's reign. Very interestingly, Shah Abbas chose able Kurdish figures Among those who had been relocated to Khorasan and other parts of Iran during the reign of Shah Tahmasp. Let me give you two specific examples. The most well-known example is Ganji Ali Khan of the Zik tribe, a Kurdish tribe. The tribe must have been small and weak one because it was even not mentioned in the Shahnameh. And Ganji Ali Khan originally served a Kizilbash Turkish emir, but later he came into the service of young Prince Abbas, future Shah Abbas, who was governor of Herat at the time. Ganji Ali Khan distinguished himself in battles against the Uzbeks, earning the prince's favor and recognition. Following this, Ganji Ali Khan was appointed governor of several regions in Iran. In 1593, after Abbas had ascended the throne, he was made governor of Kerman, one of the major cities in eastern Iran. He ruled Kerman for the next 30 years and also took part in various expeditions against the Ottoman Empire and Uzbeks at the order of Abbas I. As a result of these services, Ganji Ali Khan came to be recognized as one of the leading generals loyal to the Shah. In 1622, when Shah Abbas conquered Kandahar from the Mughal Empire, he entrusted the governance of this strategic region on the eastern border of the Safavid Empire to Ganji Ali Khan, who continued to rule it until his death. Another individual of Kurdish origin who earned the Shah's trust was Ali Bali Beg, member of the Zangani family, Zangani tribe. The Zangani tribe originally lived in Iraq, but part of the tribe migrated to Iran during the early Safavid period, probably during the reign of Shah Ismail I. When the Zangani tribe submitted to the Safavid dynasty, it had lost their emir. So as a result, that tribe was divided into several groups, each of which came to serve one of the Kizilbash tribes, Kizilbash amirs. By the late 16th century, Ali Bali Beg emerged as a notable figure of the Zangani tribe. Initially, serving Kizilbash Amir, he caught the attention of Shah Abbas, who appointed him the king's master of the royal stables, that is Amir al-Khorbashi. This position brought him into the Shah's inner circle of advisors. Building on their foothold in the Safavid court, the Zangani family gradually monopolized several important positions, including the post of Amir al-Khorbashi, the master of the royal stables, while also being granted the governorship of Kermanshah. As you know, Kermanshah held great strategic importance for the Safavid dynasty, serving as a key front line against the Ottoman Empire. Through these developments, the Zangani family, which had been a relatively small Kurdish tribe in the 16th century, grew to become the most powerful Kurdish tribe within the Safavid territory by the mid-17th century. The most successful member of the Zangin family was Shahrani Khan, the son of Ali Bali Beg. Shahrani Khan. He rose through the ranks of the Safavid court, eventually attaining the position of Grand Vizier, which he occupied for 20 years. Furthermore, his son, Shah Khan, later held the same position, Grand Vizier, the top of the Safavid administration, serving to the last Safavid Shah, Sultan Hussein. As the examples of Yanjali Khan and Zangane family demonstrate, it can be said that in the later Safavid period, even individuals of Kurdish origin were able to play significant roles in the core of the Safavid government. The reforms of Shah Abbas I weakened the power of the Kizilbash tribes, creating opportunities for Kurdish tribes to share in the power of the Safavid dynasty. Now, Shah Abbas I also continued the practice of educating the sons of Kurdish amirs at the royal court. Let's take an example. Among the Kurdish amir families that accepted Safavid rule, one of the most powerful one was the Ardalan family. The Ardalans had submitted to the Safavid dynasty by the mid-16th century during the reign of Shah Tahmasp. However, during the period of turmoil following Tahmasp's death, they attempted to assert their independence, navigating a delicate balance between the Ottoman and Safavid dynasties. At the beginning of the 17th century, Shah Abbas I launched military campaigns against the Ardalans. Under repeated pressure, the Amir, Halo Khan Ardalan, ultimately reaffirmed Safavid authority. At this time, Shah Abbas demanded that the Amir's son, Khan Ahmad Khan, serve at the royal court. As a result, Khan Ahmad Khan, son of Halo Khan, was sent to Isfahan and spent his youth at the royal court, and later married one of the Shah's sisters, cementing his position as a loyal retainer of the Shah. There is interesting anecdote about Khan Ahmad Khan. After completing his time in Isfahan, Khan Ahmad Khan returned to Kurdistan to his father. According to a local chronicle of the Ardalan Emirate, to celebrate his son's return, his father, Halo Khan, prepared a banquet for his son and his bride. The chronicle reports as follows. Halo Khan ordered that they put a handful of raisins and 2 handfuls of walnuts, as well as 2 stones for cracking the walnuts in front of each guest. Seeing the people eat the raisins and crack the walnuts, Khan Ahmad Khan got embarrassed, for he lived for a long time among the Kizilbash, at the Safavid court, and brought with him outsiders that is those from the Safavid court. He sent Ahmad Khan sent some men to the reception to prepare colorful trays full of halwa and other sweets for the reception. This enraged Khan, and he said to Ahmad Khan, "These sweets embittered me. You disgraced the customs of Kurdistan." And this story is just a tradition circulated at Sanandaj in the Sanandaj was the Ottoman capital. So it was circulated at Sanandaj during the 19th century. So we cannot know whether the event really happened as recorded here. But it is plausible that life at the Safavid court not only strengthened Ahmad Khan's loyalty to the Shah, but also led to a degree of cultural transformation or a kind of acculturation. So it is evident that raising Kurdish amirs at the Safavid court was a significant strategy for integrating them politically and culturally, even during the later years of the Safavid dynasty. And this policy continued until the end of the dynasty, as is recorded in some historical documents. Finally, I would like to discuss the religious policies carried out by the Safavid dynasty in the Kurdish region, which had a relatively large Sunni population. Shah Ismail I, the first Safavid Shah, established Shiism as the state's religion upon declaring the independence of the dynasty, forcing much of the Sunni population to adopt the Shiite faith. Then Shiism gradually spread throughout Iranian society. What policies then did the Safavid Shahs adopt toward the predominantly Sunni Kurdish society? It might be tempting to assume that the Shiite Safavids dealt harshly with Sunni Kurdish tribes, but this is likely a misleading argument. There is no evidence to suggest that Shah Tahmasp doubted the loyalty of Kurdish amirs solely because of their Sunni faith. Additionally, the Safavids gradually adopted a more moderate form of Shiism. This moderation allowed Kurdish chieftains maintain their Sunni faith. In other words, their faith did not pose a major obstacle. I mean, their Sunni faith did not pose a major obstacle to their loyalty to the Shiite Safavid dynasty. One illustrative example comes from the mid-16th century when a Safavid emissary approached Sophia Beg, the Ottoman Amir of the time, urging him to submit to Safavid rule. According to historical accounts, Sophia stated, "If His Majesty Shah Tahmasp neither attacks my faith nor demands curses on the companions of the Prophet, I will come to the court with you." The Safavid envoy assured Sophia that these conditions would be respected, leading him to submit. This showed that the Safavid dynasty did not simply oppress Kurdish amirs and tribes on the basis of their religious affiliation. However, the situation shifted toward the end of the Safavid period. By the late 17th century, Shiite ulama had begun to exert increasing influence at the Safavid court. Under the pious Shiite monarch Shah Sultan Hussein, the last Shah, this influence grew significantly, affecting policies toward the Kurdish regions. The Safavid government, for example, stripped the Ardalan family of their ruling authority, governorship, appointing governors from the central administration to govern the region and actively promote Shiism. This period of direct central rule lasted for more than a decade. However, the policy ultimately failed as it provoked strong local resistance. Finally, the Safavid dynasty reversed this policy, restoring governance of the region to the Ardalan family. To summarize, the following points can be made. In the early Safavid period, the dynasty sought to eliminate Kurdish amirs who controlled eastern Anatolia, often confiscating their territories. However, after the Battle of Chaldiran, and particularly during the reign of Shah Tahmasp, the Safavid approach became more pragmatic and moderate. As long as Kurdish amirs demonstrated loyalty to the Safavid state, they were allowed to retain their territories and govern them. To ensure the continued loyalty to these amirs, these Kurdish amirs, Shah Tahmasp brought their children to the royal court, where they were raised with great care. Additionally, members of Kurdish ruling families were recruited into the king's personal guard, Korchis. These policies fostered a direct and personal relationship between the Shah and the Kurdish amirs. This contrasts with the Ottoman approach, where the relationship between the Sultan and Kurdish amirs was basically mediated by provincial governors. The Safavid state also relocated smaller and less powerful Kurdish tribes to various parts of Iran, particularly Khorasan, where they were tasked with defending the northeastern borders. Over time, some of these relocated Kurdish tribes, such as the Zangiane family or tribe, gained the favor of Shah Abbas I and even ascended to key positions within the Safavid central government. With regard to the religious aspect of the Safavid policy toward the Kurds, with the exception of the early and late periods of the dynasty, the Safavids generally tolerated the Sunni faith of the Kurds. From this analysis, it is clear that the common image of the Shiite Safavid state as a suppressor of Sunni Kurdish tribes requires revision. While the approach differed from that of the Ottoman Empire, the Safavid dynasty also pursued strategies gradually integrate Kurdish amirs into its political system. So this concludes today's presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor, for a great presentation. I'll now begin the Q&A portion of this event. Please enter your question or questions in the chat box. You may also raise your hand via Zoom to ask your questions directly. But while waiting for the questions to populate, I will ask you some questions from Professor Matin Atmaca, Zahra Institute's Kurdish Studies Coordinator and instructor for the History and Literature of the Kurds graduate course here. Unfortunately, he's not able to attend today due to travel. So Dr. Yamaguchi, Professor Admacha wanted me to let you know to send his best regards. And he also has a few questions for me to ask in his stead. His questions are threefold, and here they are. While we now have a clearer understanding of the imperial policies of the Safavids and Ottomans toward their borderlands, the role of Kurdish emirates and tribal confederations in shaping these policies remains less explored. To what extent and through what political mechanisms did Kurdish leaders influence regional policymaking? Were they directly involved in imperial decision-making processes, or did they operate indirectly to exert their influence? And moreover, did imperial powers actively include Kurdish emirs in policy formulation, or did these emirs bypass imperial authority to reshape policies in ways that served their local interests? And finally, can we identify and concretize the tools, strategies, or policies Kurdish emirs employed in circumventing imperial authority, and what impact did these actions have on the broader governance of the region? Thank you, Professor.
Thank you for questions. I'm not sure I understood all the questions, but the first question is how the Kurdish emirs influenced the policies, imperial policies. I mean, the policies of Ottoman and Safavid policies regarding the frontier. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, of course. As I said in my talk, both empires were obliged to consider the existence of the Kurdish emirates, who had a very independent mentality. So they always needed to arrange their policies toward the frontier, considering how to control the Kurdish tribes. So yeah, the Kurdish tribes, Kurdish emirates were always important factors for the empires, policies toward the frontier, or to the policies. I'm sorry, to the relationship, Ottoman-Safavid relationship. Yeah, it's a very important factor. Yeah. And the second one, what was the second one? Sorry.
The second part was, did imperial powers actively include the emirs in the policy formulation, or did they just bypass the imperial authority to reshape the policies in ways that serve their local interests?
Yeah. They use, for example, Kurdish tribes as kind of spies for the enemy empire. So they sent some of members of loyal tribes to the other side, and for gathering information. In this way, they used the Kurdish tribes for formulating their policies, for example. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor. And Professor, if you can stop screen sharing so you can engage with the audience better, they can see you better in the screen.
Yeah.
And there's a question here on the chat box. Bruce, one of our instructors at Zahra Institute, he I mentioned thanks for this interesting topic. I came across the sentences on the internet. The Safavid rulers were ethnically Turkish, but deeply influenced by Persian culture and traditions. Why were they influenced by Persian culture and opposite to Ottoman, which kept the Turkish identity to a certain degree?
I hope it's not a difficult question.
And Bruce, yeah, if you want to clarify that, feel free to add.
Yeah, actually, it was always like interesting for me, the combination between the Turkic and Persian culture.
Mm-hmm.
And one Kurdish writer, he was from East Kurdistan. He said Persian could always occupy others by their language. There is something spiritual with the language. But when I say here, like they were like Turkic and they have adopted the Persian, something I don't understand how this is combination which has happened. So my parents are from Medina. I'm born in Rojava in Syria, and we have studied the Ottoman Empire, of course, in the eye of Abbas party, which was looking at Ottoman as occupation, but we knew nothing. And now I discover that I didn't know the Safawi or the Iranian very good, but like just when I came across that they were like Turkic and not Persian, then it made me what's happening on the other part in Kurdistan. So maybe I need to go more deeply in the Kurdish history in Iranian Kurdistan. But actually, it's very interesting for me. Why? Why did they have until now the Azeri? They are Turkic speaker, and their loyalty is not to Turkey. Their loyalty is to, and they are speaking the same language. And sorry, let's go.
I understood your question. As I talked in my presentation, the Safavid dynasty was established by the military power of Kizilbash tribes, who were composed of mainly of Turkish nomads. So, in the Safavid court, not only Persian but also Turkish were spoken. Two languages were spoken at the Safavid court. So they
But which was stronger, the Persian language in literature and administration?
Literature in the field
or
of
the Turkic?
Persian was a prestigious language, so Persian was much
I
powerful.
say that because actually I didn't have in Syria we didn't have we had Turkmens, but not in my area. And I knew Azeri, especially Azeri from Iran in Europe. And unfortunately, they were more racistic against us than the Persian. And there was like the showing that they are the Turkic, but their loyalty was to Iran. One of them, she said to me, why you Kurds like to read in your language and Kurdish school? We also speak Turkish, but we don't bother about writing in Turkish. We write in Persian. And of course, this is different in the Republic of Azerbaijan. And this was something like shock. Is there somebody who is not proud to read or write in her or his language? But this was the things. They were like feeling more Iranian. And of course, the Persian in Europe, West are the 100%, the Western, the most European. This is by my experience. They like to be more European, but I don't know. It's like, to be honest with you, the whole Iran is complex for me to understand. Even this is 12 Shiism. They are speaking about Imam al-Mahdi. Who is he? What did you think? I mean, all things here is like something mysterious. I mean, Sunni knows about him. Some would say there is to be Mahdi or not, but they have been like, they made Imam Mahdi like Jesus for Christians. Okay? And so all the Iran here is mystery for me. The politics, the history, which I don't know who is ruling what. Sorry for
right.
but this is what I try to understand Iran, but Iran is very, very difficult to be understood.
Thanks, Bruce.
Okay.
Let me see if do we have other
Thank you.
questions here? Mujahid, I'm surprised there's no questions on your end. We can't hear you, Mujahid.
I was hoping that Sabri Atesh is going to say something. We have another historian in the audience. I was perplexed by the word Kurdi. Is it a Turkic word or is it Farsi? I wonder if it has to do with korucu, the Turkish word. Is it?
Good question.
It's it's a Turkish word, but I don't think it has something with korucu in Turkish. Kor means I think arrow and
okay. Got it. Thank you.
Professor Atesh, any questions? Michael, we have a few historians here that I recognize.
Shahreen, I have a question. If
Yalla.
Yalla. Thank you, Professor, for this great presentation. I was wondering, the fact that the children of Kurdish elites or rulers received like a certain level of educational degree, or in Safavid courts and maybe in their educational institutions, did this help the Kurdish elites to basically, in a positive way, to develop a sense of like a unity in the future, like in a way that, okay, you know what, like we are learning how to be like a, how to rule institutions, how to rule these, like military units, then why don't we kind of get united and we kind of create our own dynasty? This sort of mindset or aspiration, did it help these Kurdish groups to evolve an aspiration or a mindset?
Thank you for your question. Yeah, but they learned, as I said, they learned various subjects at the court, but and maybe they learned how to rule their tribes and their emirates, but I don't think it led to a sense of incentive for unify or a Kurdish region, something like that. No. Yeah.
Thank you, Mustafa. And any other questions here? Let me see. There's. All right, from Professor Atesh. First of all, greetings to my old friend Yamaguchi-san, and thank you for this revisionist and incisive talk. Since Safavid origins came up, I wanted to hear your views about Safavid origins. Abbas Amanat, in his monumental Modern Iran, says, the Safavid family originally was among the landowning nobility of Kurdish origin, with affinity to the Ahl al-Haq in Kurdistan. Also, according to Safwa Safa, Yeah, Sheikh Safi's biography and earliest known Safavid narrative source. His ancestor Piruz al-Kurdi was a member of the Kurdish army, Ashkar al-Kurd, that came from Sanjar to conquer Azerbaijan. In recognition of his contributions to the campaigns, he was bestowed Ardabil and its surroundings. See Ibn Bawa's Tawakkuli Ardabili Safwat Safa Suleymaniya Library. I'm asking with the knowledge that the Safavid were Turkified, of course.
Yeah, as Professor Atesh wrote, it is said that the Safavid family was of Kurdish origin, but yeah, as Professor Sabri said, the family itself was Turkified. I mean, they were surrounded by Turkish nomadic tribes, so they must have spoken the Turkish language. So I think their Kurdish origin was not so important for them. But regarding the real origin of the family, I don't know. I don't have any other knowledge. Yeah.
All right. I think that is.
Let me, if I might, I would like to ask a question. Without ignoring the uniqueness of each empire and Kurdish relations with the imperial center, if you compare Safavid policy with Ottoman policy, which one do you think was more effective from their point of view?
It is a very interesting but very difficult question.
Yeah.
I think Iranian policy was a kind of more effective in the integration, political integration of the different ethnic groups, because yeah, in Iran, Persian is very prestige and powerful language, but it's Iran is supposed to be a multi-ethnic country, or so now it because that's because from the Safavid period, Iranian territorial framework could be preserved until now, and I think it's due to the Safavid flexible policy towards different ethnic groups in Iran. And in the Ottoman case, sometimes the relationship between Beyliğ Beys and amirs became tense. So so Kurdish amirs, of course, it depends on the periods, but Kurdish amirs sometimes got dissatisfied with the control of Beyliğ Beys. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was a very crisp presentation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then I see another question by Oskan saying, commenting first, thank you for your presentation. Do you think any religious motivation for relocation of Sunni Kurdish tribes? Were there any Kizilbash tribes relocated from Khorasan to Anatolia, specifically to Eastern Anatolia?
Mm-hmm. The first question, relocation of Sunni Kurdish tribes. It is difficult to say any religious motivation played a certain role in the relocation of Kurdish tribes to Khorasan. I mean, there is no reliable document for discussing this question. And the second question, were there any Kizilbash tribes that relocated from Khorasan to Anatolia, East Anatolia? I don't have any idea about the question. As you know, most of the Turkish tribes who had lived in East Anatolia before the establishment of the Safavid Empire moved to Iran after the establishment of Safavid, or after especially after the Safavids lost Eastern Anatolian territories. But there remained some Turkish tribes in East Anatolia, but from Khorasan to East Anatolia, no, I don't have any idea about that question.
Right. I think there's no other question. That concludes the Q&A section and our last speaker event for the year. If you want to rewatch the lecture, a video recording of this lecture should be available on Zahra Institute's YouTube and Facebook page within a few days. And as mentioned earlier, our speaker series will resume after the start of the spring term classes at Zahra Institute in 2025. Please follow us on YouTube and on social media, such as Facebook, X, Instagram, and LinkedIn for further updates. Source Pass, thank you, and Terima kasih for your support and attendance. Thank you so much, Professor. This was a great presentation. See you again in 2025, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, go bye-bye.
Bye. See you again.